Welcome back, everyone. POW Ponderon Weather here. We've got three more atmospheric river events and severe storms, plus much warmer conditions for January as we break down the weather setups over the next 7 days. Let's first take you back and where we've been the last 2 weeks, really since Christmas. Here's the overall precipitation that we've seen, and you can actually see the West Coast has been lit up across the board. All these areas in purple here, that is over 15 inches of rainfall. And even in the mountain regions, it's maxed out at 40 inches in the form of snow, and all that's going to melt sometime. So that's definitely going to help out the reservoirs out there. But most of the action has been across the deep south with heavier rains into the southeast. But we've had more of a dry slot in the midsection of the country. But it's been plenty warm since January has started, with widespread 15 to 20 degrees above average temperature anomalies. And actually, we've had numerous records that have been broken over the last couple of days. And I think we actually break more records into today as well. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns on North America, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel. It's also important to hit the like button as well. It definitely helps out more than you know. So let's really delve into the details and take a look at the hazard setups for today, because this latest atmospheric river event is pounding northern California. We've got renewed flood watches out here that's going to be bringing more heavier rain into portions of San Jose, San Francisco, up there in the northern California regions. But it is going to be cold enough to at least snow in some of the higher elevations of Utah into Colorado, as well as into Wyoming. And then we are going to have a little bit of snowflakes flying as well as into Wisconsin, but it's all about the critical fire danger across where those areas that have been bone dry and much lower humidity today. Definitely high alerts for critical fire danger and very high winds as well. Those winds are going to be whipping at 50 and 60 miles an hour. And I think it's going to be a very windy week across this midsection of the country. Is going to be along this little cold front that we are going to be talking about. But it's all about the heat today, because we had numerous records fall across Texas yesterday, but we've got even more today, possibly up to 9 of them, and even almost approaching 90 degrees down there in deep south of Texas. But widespread 70s across the deep south, but even plenty warmer across Kentucky, up through the Ohio Valley. All these areas are actually above average for this time of year. But we are concerned about more heavier rain. That's why they've got those flash flood watches in place. So here's the radar depiction as we head through this afternoon, with heavier thunderstorms still impacting these areas up here along the Pacific Northwest. But there's your first sign of the cold front. It is going to be breaking out some snow around this low pressure center. We could be breaking out in eastern portions of Colorado as well as portions of Kansas here. But out ahead of it, we are going to be experiencing some very strong thunderstorms headed into tomorrow. And that's why the Storm Prediction Center does have that slight risk for severe storms. So if you live in the Mobile area and back into the Jackson area, all the way up into Nashville, up here into Bowling Green, all the way across into Charlotte, even in the southern portions of Tallahassee, getting into Pensacola, you definitely have to be high alert for some of those stronger to severe storms. But if you live in the Montgomery area, down here in the Augusta area, back into the Athens, Atlanta, even up into Huntsville, back into Birmingham, those are the storms I'm going to be most concerned about, being all 3 modes of severe storms. We're talking large hail, some isolated tornado threat, and those damaging winds. Let's look at that tornado threat. It actually looks like a little catcher's mitt out here, but that's a pretty significant 2% risk zones. Don't let your guard down just because, hey, it's only the 2% probability of seeing a tornado. Some of these can overperform. So definitely be on high alert down here in Columbus, back into Birmingham, into Alabama, and going into Atlanta here, into Chattanooga, but even as far northbound as Nashville, even to Louisville, Kentucky, are gonna have to be on high alert of seeing those quick little spin ups with this nasty squall line. So let's take a look at the radar setup as we get into tomorrow afternoon. This is around 11, 12 o'clock. I broke down the details here. down here at the bottom corner of the screen, the darker the color is typically the more intense rainfall or the highest producing storms, and the larger the number as well. So this is going to be a nasty squall line that's going to be racing across Alabama into Georgia around the noon time frame. Along this squall line, you're going to have a lot of damaging winds. We're talking 60 to 65 mile per hour gust, but we could be looking at some isolated tornado spin-ups as well. But within this sector, those are these little isolated bubbles. This is your highest concern of could be seeing a quick spin up tornado as well, with these more or less isolated areas of supercells across Tennessee into Kentucky. And there's kind of your cold front along this sector. This is more or less your moderate rain and typically not really your severe storms within this sector. And then of course back behind that, it's high and dry, but much cooler conditions. Temps should drop about 30 degrees and what you're actually seeing today, but it's going to be very windy. Right now they've got high wind warnings in portions of New Mexico as well as the Texas Panhandle, but back behind this front, these winds are going to be whipping. So once this front moves through, your rain chances are done, but it's going to be pretty dry across North Texas, Oklahoma. Where you've been dry, you're still going to be pretty dry in those areas. But, back behind this, the winds are going to be whipping, into the overnight hours, say in the Oklahoma area, into the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then that shifts off into the Arklatex through portions of the Southeast. That's where you're going to be getting your severe storms as well. Up here in the far right-hand corner of the screen, that is the depiction on how high these winds could be. Anything in red you see is upwards to 60 mile per hour. These are maximum wind gusts over the next 48 hours. So these are winds over the next 2 days. So you can definitely see it's going to be pretty bumpy across the midsection of the country. But back behind that on Friday, there's your cold front. It's not really like Arctic in nature by any stretch of the imagination, but considering where we've been, that's about a 30-degree drop. So we actually have to go down 30 degrees to just get to about average conditions technically. But we should be getting those freezes in a huge swath where you see the blues. But again, it's not that Arctic because, it's just going to be 31 degrees and the same as down here in Texas. Texas and Canada is going to be about the same temperature. So that tells you it's not really much Arctic air. Where there's actually Arctic air is up here in Quebec. That's not a misprint, guys. That's 23 degrees below zero. So they do have some true Arctic air, but you can see further down to the eastern seaboard, yeah, you're waking up in the mid 50s, and that's definitely not Arctic as well. Because of that, you're still in the warm sector, right? You're still ahead of that cold front, and because you're still in the warm sector, you're still going to be wringing out the precipitation and all going to be in the form of rain. Some models were depicting trying to pick up a 50-50 low, have a secondary low to pick up on the backside, but I don't really see that happening, guys. This is going to be a fairly progressive type system, meaning it's going to be more or less fast moving. So it's going to be a quick hit. And then since it's going to be a quick hit, there's not much snow to come with it on the backside. So you could be wringing out some snowflakes across the Ohio Valley, across the Appalachians there. But it's not much. These aren't going to be accumulating that much. Where it can actually accumulate is up here in the Maine, where it technically slows down a little bit. But all eyes will start to creep in out west with renewed threat of another significant atmospheric river event, which would be even more pronounced as we go into Saturday. So things are going to be lit up in a big way. The high winds come back. Widespread flood watches come back, and then very heavy rain. We're talking 1.5 inches per hour potential, the atmosphere is saying, with this potential, and that's a significant down there in these regions that really don't pick up that much rainfall. So you're seeing significant totals and something you have not seen in many, many, many years. You've seen all the rain that's fallen so far, and you just got a lot more rain. 3 separate events coming, the ones today, but a huge, significant one that comes on Saturday that lasts about 36 hours, which extends into Monday. So there's the setup for Saturday. It's just lit up across the board, across the West Coast. Just California just gets pounded. But for the rest of the country, you're kind of high and dry. Once that cold front moves through, it takes all the precipitation with it. So the only act in town is out west, and they're taking up all the energy in the atmosphere and just dumping it over California in a big way. So trust me, Saturday is going to be a nasty day in California. As all the higher winds, I'm expecting a lot of power outages in these areas. So definitely be on high alert and just stay home if you can, and just kind of ride out the storm, because that actually continues until Monday. So you're not going to catch a break. It's going to be a rough weekend. And then you get another significant system that comes in on Monday that lights up across the board as well, all the way down into Southern California this time. Los Angeles is going to get hit hard again, San Diego, all those areas, and the snow is just going to be incredible in some of these mountain regions. I mean, they've already picked up, it's just off the charts, just mind-boggling how much snow they've actually received in some of these Sierra, upwards to almost some spots I saw 260% above average what they typically see. So it's just been crazy and insane amounts of snow. But what's going to happen for the rest of the country is, yet again, it's kind of deja vu. We're going to be seeing another system kind of set up across the extreme portions of East Texas, but literally set up across Louisiana and Arkansas. Another low pressure center trying to form in Missouri, down into Iowa, with snow in the northwest side of there. And then that's where the warmer conditions are going to be flying too. So even into next week, we're still dealing with those much warmer conditions. We still have the south wind. So even though we do have a little bit of a cool down coming, it ain't going to last long, because once the winds turn around, we rapidly warm up again with much warmer conditions. The only coolness in town is going to be out west, where they are going to be seeing those below average temperatures. And where the warm sector is, that's where the severe storms are going to be. So this is going to be your third week in a row we've been talking about severe storms in January. And a lot of these places are going to be hit with the same areas. Again, through the Arklatex on Monday, that shifts a little bit further off into the east and portions of the southeast, but then really expands, and where they really see all the significant severe storms going into tomorrow are going to get hit again by the time we get into Wednesday, the 18th time frame. But where's all the cold air? Because it's not in the lower 48. I can promise you that. It's up there in Siberia. And it's extreme cold, guys. So you gotta think it's got to be cold somewhere. Up to 82 below zero up there this morning. In fact, it was the coldest, even in Siberia, since 2002. So you're talking 21 years. Even Siberia hasn't been that cold, and that cold can't stay up there that forever, right? It can't stay up there forever. So we have subtle changes as we go into, say, the 19th time frame. So what we're going to be seeing is this significant trough that continues to build. I showed you the cooler conditions out west will slowly move. So as we get towards the 18th, 19th time frame, the good thing is, I think the atmospheric river shuts down, because we have the ridge of high pressure building in. Once that builds in, that dries up the spigot out there. So I think the rain ends and the drying out starts. But we got 3 more systems to deal with before that actually starts. But the difference is, in this setup, is this trough, once this tap shuts off the taps, that allows the energy getting pulled across the midsection of the country. So places that you've been bone dry in Texas, into Oklahoma, you're finally going to get some rain. But it won't be until, say, the 18th and 19th time frame. But once this trough sneaks in, it's going to be a slow process, but it should eat away this ridge and start lifting up these positives further and further to the north. And the more that takes place, the more colder air is going to be able to sneak in underneath. And you can actually see that by the time we get into, say, the 25th and the 26th time frame. I think the colder air will finally win out for a good part of the country. So it starts out west, and it slowly starts shifting across the central US, and then eventually it starts shifting across into the east, and then it brings all those positives further north, and it locks the colder air underneath, and it'll finally start feeling like January, what it's supposed to feel like. So let's talk about the snow over the next 7 days, because we're going to be plenty warm. So there's technically not that much snow to talk about, because all the snow is going to be pulled well up into Canada, and there's not much in the lower 48. Where it is going to be snowing is just in the higher elevations. And again, California just takes all the energy up in those mountain regions with just crazy amounts of snow. But what's more concerning is just all the rainfall that's going to take place. Again, you're going to be dry. This is through Wednesday. This is where the atmospheric river, I think, stops through the 18th. So we're going to have these setups that come across, again, miss the midsection of the country, really start to elongate and take advantage of the Gulf and start these heavier amounts of precipitation through the deep south, through the Tennessee Valley, and all the way through the Ohio Valley and into the portions of the Northeast as well. But where all the heavier rain is going to be taking place is definitely out west in the Pacific Northwest, but more predominantly in Northern California is going to be hit hard. Another 10 inches easily in those areas. And then that propagates and pulls further south into central Texas, central California, as well as into Southern California with multiple inches of more rain are going to be on the table. And again, some of that could sneak into portions of the desert Southwest as well. So, hey, I appreciate you guys following. Do follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as well, updating those platforms, and definitely hit the subscribe button and catch the next update. Why I protect you before and after the storm.